Hey guys! Today we'll be covering a 2021 romance film called Parasite in Love. At the start of the movie, a boy named Kengo Kosaka sits alone in his apartment and codes ferociously to make a deadly virus that will destroy all the communication networks. He decides to release the virus on December 24th to get back at the world that isolated and bullied him. Kosaka then narrates how his parents died when he was just 8 years old, and since then, he has been alone in the world. He also mentions that he is a germaphobe, one who is afraid of dirtiness and germs. He regularly washes his hands, believing that they are contaminated and full of germs. Because of the excessive washing of hands, his hands have wrinkled and turned red. On the other hand, there is Hijiri Sanagi, a high school student who is suffering from a condition called scopophobia, a fear of being stared at. She keeps her distance from other people and prefers to stay in isolation, wearing her headphones. Here we learn that her mother took her own life, and since then, Hijiri likes to be on her own. During her childhood, her grandfather Yuchi, who is also a doctor, told her she has a parasite living inside her head that will eat her up one day. The scene then shifts to the present where Kosaka is traveling on a bus. Suddenly, he notices a man having his lunch and feels disgusted. Kosaka gets uncomfortable and exits the bus. As soon as he steps out, he pukes on the road. Hijiri, who is walking on the side of the road, notices him, but doesn't pay much attention. Unfortunately, as she gets closer to him, Kosaka falls on the ground unconscious. Seeing this, she takes him to her grandfather's hospital for treatment. After the treatment, when Kosaka returns to his apartment, he is surprised to see an unknown person, Izumi, inside his room. Knowing that Kosaka is in need of money, Izumi offers him a huge amount of money and in return, asks him to look after a young girl. He also threatens Kosaka by saying that if he does not follow his orders, he will spread the news of his newly built virus. As soon as Izumi leaves, Kosaka hurriedly sanitizes his whole room. The next day, as per Izumi's orders, Kosaka arrives at the park in time and meets Hijiri. Hijiri approaches him and recognizes him as the guy she saved the previous day. She also learns that he is the man appointed to look after her. She then blackmails Kosaka for half the money that he is receiving, or else she will abandon him. Having no other options left, Kosaka agrees to give the money after he gets it. But when Hijiri asks for the money immediately, Kosaka takes her outside his apartment and hands her a small amount in advance. Though Kosaka tries to stop Hijiri from entering his apartment, she pushes him aside and goes straight into his room. She then starts playing with his electronic equipment and sleeps on his bed. Seeing this, Kosaka starts to panic as he believes that Hijiri is spreading germs inside his bedroom and the germs are multiplying themselves. Witnessing Kosaka's behavior, Hijiri gets weirded out and walks away. Wasting no time, Kosaka takes a bath and puts all his bed sheets and clothes in the washing machine. He then calls Izumi and tries to opt out of the contract, but Izumi threatens to kill him if he even thinks of doing so. The following morning, Hijiri arrives in front of Kosaka's apartment and starts banging on his door. Kosaka opens the door, and despite him stopping her, Hijiri enters his room and throws her shoes around. She then hops on his bed and starts screaming. Kosaka cannot take it anymore, and he pukes on the floor and falls unconscious. After some time, when he opens his eyes, he finds himself sleeping on the bed and Hijiri sitting on the floor. Here, Kosaka reveals to Hijiri that he is a germaphobe, but she tells him that she already knows about his condition. Hijiri mentions that she cleaned the floor, and if he wishes, he can double-check it. Following this, Kosaka and Hijiri can be seen at a cafe enjoying their drinks. Kosaka provides her with half the contract money, and Hijiri mentions that she wants to use the money to run away. In the evening, while Hijiri is walking on the road, a group of thugs approach her on their bikes and snatch her bag and headphones. As soon as the headphones come out of her head, Hijiri starts hearing some strange sounds and suffers from a panic attack, prompting other people to rush towards her to help. Scared, she immediately calls Kosaka and asks him to come and get her. Wasting no time, Kosaka takes his bicycle and searches for Hirigi around the city until he finds her on the side of a silent road, sitting alone, crying. He goes to her and calms her down. The next day, Izumi meets with Kosaka and orders him to hang out more with Hijiri. He also warns Kosaka to keep his hands off her and never to try to get close with her or kiss her. Despite this, Kosaka and Hijiri again visit a restaurant where they have some drinks and plan to spend their time like normal people. In the following scene, it is revealed that Izumi is Hijiri's doctor who does her regular checkup and tells her that her scopophobia is getting better. After that, Izumi meets Yuchi, who reveals that they are monitoring Kosaka and Hijiri for the treatment of the different parasites inside them. It is part of their medical research to bring Hijiri and Kosaka closer. The scene then shifts to Kosaka and Hijiri, who are trying their best to go out in public and enjoy their time like normal people. They visit different places and do things that they are afraid to do alone. During this time, Kosaka tells Hijiri about his development of a new virus, which he is planning to release on December 24th at 7 p.m. Hijiri is intrigued, but she agrees to support him on that day. which also turns out to be Christmas Eve. In the meantime, Izumi is listening to all their conversations with the help of a microphone he installed in Kosaka secretly. While returning home after spending the day together, Kosaka sadly tells Hijiri that he cannot spend life like a normal guy. In fact, he cannot even think of getting married and having children. Hearing this, Hijiri comes closer to him and kisses him on the mask. Later in the evening, when Hijiri reaches home, Yuchi approaches her and informs her that the treatment for her virus is going to start soon. Hearing this, Hijiri asks Yuchi not to drag Kosaka into all of this as she has feelings for him. To her dismay, Yuchi makes it clear that the virus is taking control of her thought process and making her say all this. He also reminds her about her mother's condition after she rejected the treatment. Hijiri tries to make Yuchi understand that her feelings for Kosaka are real, but Yuchi dismisses her claims. Shortly after, Hijiri visits Kosaka's apartment and informs him that her treatment will start the following day, and she will no longer be able to meet him. Confused, Kosaka asks Hijiri about her treatment, but she runs away without telling him anything. The next day, Kosaka meets Izumi and asks him about Hijiri. Izumi tells him that Hijiri has a parasite inside her head, and so does he. He also mentions that more than 70% of the people who are considered unfit for socializing suffer from these parasites. Izumi then reveals that the parasite controls the host's brain and makes them feel like they are attracted to the opposite sex. They do so to bring the two hosts closer so that they can get intimate and the parasites can increase their number. After that, Kosaka visits Hijiri and tells her that she should have the treatment and get the parasite out of her. Sadly, the problem with the procedure is that the person will lose all of the feelings they once had for the one they were attracted to. Late at night, Kosaka gets a call from Izumi informing him that Hijiri has run away from her treatment room. Afraid, Kosaka dresses up and goes straight to meet Izumi. There, Izumi reveals that Hijiri's mother was the first person Yuchi found the parasite inside of. He says that after Hijiri was born, he met Hijiri's mother and fell in love with her. He also mentions that as the love between them progressed, Hijiri's mother started feeling better and refused to have the treatment. She was afraid to lose the feelings she had for Izumi and decided to end herself rather than getting treated. Izumi then provides Kosaka with a picture of her mother. Soon, Kosaka goes out to search for Hijiri and finds her on a platform waiting for a train. In the following scene, Hijiri takes Kosaka to the same place where her mother took her own life. She then tells Kosaka that her entire life, she has been alone and isolated. Now, after she fell in love with him, she does not want that feeling to go away. She then runs towards the pond, mentioning that she will end herself rather than forgetting him. She also mentions that she does not want Kosaka to forget about her. Hearing all of this, and an emotional Kosaka agrees with her and decides to not take part in the treatment. Surprisingly, in the next scene, Kosaka wakes up in the hospital room where Yuchi tells him that the treatment was successful. Enraged, Kosaka gets up from his bed and tells him that neither he nor Hijiri wanted the treatment. Right then, Yuchi plays a video showing Hijiri taking part in the treatment. Following this, Kosaka returns to his apartment and realizes that the phobia that has haunted him for 27 years is finally over. He starts working for a big company and has no problem being around other office staff. He remembers Hijiri, but has no feelings left for her. One night, Kosaka gets a call from Izumi who informs him that Hijiri has been missing for a couple of days. Despite the news, Kosaka does not show any emotion of distress or concern. Later, when he returns to his apartment, he finds an envelope sent to him by Hijiri. He opens the envelope to find the money he gave to Hijiri as the payment for the contract, along with a letter. In the letter, Hijiri mentions that she has written her thoughts while she still has some feelings left for him. She writes that she wants to get hold of the feelings, but fails every time she tries to do so. She also mentions that she remembers all the moments they spent together and wants to cherish them again. Eventually, Hijiri writes that the memories of them together are slowly fading away, and one day, they will meet each other as strangers. After reading the letter, Kosaka starts crying out loudly. The scene then shifts to Izumi, who is currently studying the blood samples of Kosaka. Surprisingly, despite the successful treatment, he finds a parasite's egg inside his blood. Alarmed, he immediately approaches Yuchi and informs him about the situation. He also mentions that he believes an egg similar to Kosaka is inside Hijiri too. In the last scene, Kosaka schedules the release of the virus for 7 p.m., despite having a bug, and goes out to see the people celebrating Christmas. While everyone is enjoying the festivities, Hijiri arrives and comes near Kosaka. She mocks him that his virus failed to do the destruction he promised. But suddenly, the communication networks around the country start failing and people begin panicking. While there is chaos around them, Kosaka and Hijiri enjoy the moment and express their love for each other. The movie ends with the two kissing amidst the destruction.